Welcome. This is a lecture series. Please have paper and pencils ready to take notes. The better your notes, the more help they will be as you write a research paper in the future. Today we're going to discuss standard for Oklahoma Academic Standards 8.6.R.3, 8th grade, the 6th standard for research, reading point 3. Students will determine the relevance, reliability, and validity of the information gathered. Please pause the video and write down what the standard is about. Can you tell the difference between a reliable source and an unreliable? How do we tell the difference? A reliable source, for example, could be written by somebody who's an expert in their field. If we were going to write about biology, we would want to look for an expert in the field of biology. Do you think a third grade student who's taken a science class would be an expert in biology? Probably not. Public libraries are reliable sources for finding information. Scholarly articles, such as in magazines like medical journals, the American Medical Association journals, those are scholarly articles. Peer-reviewed articles and journals, where peers look at articles that their co-workers have written and they agree with them, and then they put in there that they agree with those articles. We want to find reliable resources whenever we are researching. How can you tell a reliable site? Look at the URL. Does it end in .edu or .gov or .org? Those are usually URLs that tell you it's a reliable site. That doesn't mean those sites aren't slanted or have opinions of things, but they are reliable sites. We can also find online journals and magazines and news sources. But make sure the focus of the news source is fact and not entertainment. Look for their resources. When a newscaster or news journalist writes a paper, they give their resources. For example, if you are looking on an internet site, follow their bibliography sources to go to the main source that they pulled from. Keep in mind that even if we find a reliable site, they may have a hidden agenda of politics or religion that they slant their stories to anyway. But that's okay. If they're a reliable site and they're stating the facts, then we can use them. Please pause the video and write down ways to tell a reliable site. What about unreliable sources? There are sources on the internet that could be unreliable. How many times have you looked at something on Wikipedia? Those authors could be anyone. It could even be about a person and be from the person themselves, where they've maybe not told the exact complete truth. Anyone can post information on the internet. You have to be a critical reader. You have to know what you're researching and really be careful to make sure your source is not unreliable. Please pause the video and write down unreliable sources and this definition I've given you today. What are some other ways to tell an unreliable site? If the URLs end in .html or even some URLs that end in .com, you need to ask yourself when you're looking at a paper on the internet or looking at a site on the internet, does it seem that they're trying to sell me something or get me to believe one opinion or another? You need to question yourself, and you need to develop those critical thinking skills of determining whether something is reliable or unreliable. Please pause the video and write down ways to tell an unreliable site. Let's go back to the standard. The standard reads, students will determine the relevance, reliability, and validity of the information gathered. So as you're doing your research paper and you come across evidence, make sure it's related to what you're researching, make sure it's reliable, and make sure it's valid. This sometimes is not something that a teacher can teach you. This is something you need to develop as a critical thinking skill on your own. Really take the time to research things yourself. The next time you have a question, research it and practice these skills. Determine whether something's reliable or not. Look at it with a little bit more of a critical eye. Dig a little deeper than Wikipedia. Then you can take assessments in the future to ensure that you have mastery of this skill and use these skills when you're writing research papers. Thank you for joining me today.